The restaurant had fallen silent the moment she stepped inside. Forks paused mid-air, conversations broke off, and even the warm light seemed to dim against the raw, uneven patterns of the burned scars that stretched from her cheek to the side of her neck. People looked away too quickly, or stared too long, or whispered behind napkins they pretended to wipe their lips with. And at the center table closest to her path sat a rugged single father everyone in town knew, broad-shouldered, calm-eyed, with a reputation for making decisions so firm that no one expected softness from him. Everyone watched with bated breath, fully convinced he would look up, see the scarred girl approaching his table, and reject her presence just like most had done before. But as the tension thickened, as the weight of every stare pressed down on her trembling steps, the shocking moment happened. Instead of recoiling, the single dad rose from his seat, and gently reached for her hand. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and humanity, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps spread stories of compassion and hope. Her name was Arwa, a quiet 22-year-old who had learned early that the world rarely made room for those who didn't fit its idea of beauty. The fire that had scarred her face years ago had taken more than skin, it had taken her confidence, her dreams, and the ability to meet a stranger's eyes without expecting judgment. Yet she worked every day at a small café washing dishes, serving tea, and folding napkins with trembling hands that refused to forget the night she barely escaped the flames that reshaped her entire life. She had always eaten alone, walked alone, lived alone, by choice, and also because she believed no one would ever choose her. The single dad, Amir, entered her life the same way unexpected miracles do, suddenly, quietly, and at a time she had already convinced herself not to expect any. He used to come to the cafe every evening with his 6-year-old daughter, Mina, who climbed onto the same chair every time, swinging her legs and drawing imagined worlds on tissue papers. Unlike most customers, Mina never stared. She never questioned. She only smiled at Arwa with the kind of innocence that made Arwa's throat tighten. But it was Amir's steady, respectful nods and the warmth in his gaze, gentle yet never pitying, that unsettled her. Men either avoided looking at her or stared too long. Amir did neither. He simply acknowledged her as a human being worthy of normal interaction, something she had not experienced in years. Still, fear had its own heartbeat. She stayed distant. She never allowed their small interactions to feel like possibilities. Until one quiet evening, when the café had rain streaking the windows and the warm light softened the world, Mina handed Arwa a small tissue drawing, a glowing candle surrounded by flowers. When Arwa looked confused, the little girl whispered that candles weren't scary, they gave light. Amir stood behind his daughter, not saying much, simply watching Arwa with gentle reassurance. That night, for the first time in years, Arwa allowed herself to smile, small, hesitant, but real. She didn't know that Amir had been observing more than she realized. He saw her patience with customers who dismissed her. He saw how her hands shook when people whispered but she never dropped a plate. He saw how she spoke kindly to Mina when others only saw her scars. Where the world saw flaws, he saw survival. Where others saw damage, he saw strength. The turning point arrived when the cafe announced it would be closing for renovations. Workers came in and out, chairs stacked, counters covered, and the owner told staff to take a week off. Everyone left in a cheerful rush except Arwa, who stayed behind to finish wiping the last table before quietly slipping out. When she stepped onto the street, she saw something that made her freeze, Amir and Mina standing nearby, waiting under the soft glow of a street lamp. Mina ran forward to hug her, but stopped midway, remembering boundaries, waving with both hands instead. Amir smiled, asking if she was free for dinner. Not coffee, not tea, dinner. A real invitation. A real step. Instinctively, her breath hitched. She stepped back, shaking her head before the world could humiliate her again, mumbling apologies that dissolved into the night air. She didn't want to face rejection after hope had dared to rise. But Amir didn't let her retreat into shadows. With calm, steady patience, he told her that he wasn't offering charity, he simply respected her and wanted to share a meal where she didn't have to hide from the world. It was the sincerity in his eyes that softened her resistance. Against her fear, against her instinct to vanish, she nodded. The restaurant scene would become a turning point not just in her life, but in the silent assumptions of everyone watching. As the three walked in, whispers rose like dust in the air. People judged, questioned, assumed. Some even smirked, expecting the single dad to ask for a different table, to pull away, to pretend he didn't know the girl with the scar-mapped face. Arwa felt every stare like a flame against her skin, threatening to burn her all over again. Her hands remained cold, clenched, and unsteady, and she wished she had never come. Mina tugged lightly at her fingers, anchoring her, reminding her that innocence saw beyond scars. But it was a mere